Okay, we are ready to go. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the special meeting of the Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees. Open session. We're calling this meeting to order at 5:53 p.m. I'm sorry, 5:33 p.m. Let's go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Withrow, would you like to lead us, please?
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. Let's go ahead and move to approval of the agenda. Can I entertain a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. Roll call?
Was that VP Quinlan who made the motion?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Thank you. Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes, with my apologies for not being there in person. I had a previously scheduled out-of-town trip. And so sorry, I can't be there.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Napolia Bella-Reese,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move to 3.4, public communications. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Madam President, we do. First, we have Rashida Hanif.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Rashida Hanif. Thank you for having me and good evening, trustees. I'm here in regarding the Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees Area 2 appointment. After the Tuesday Peralta Board Trustees meeting, it became clear to me that I do not want this trustee seat to go to a special election, as it would not be in the best interest of Peralta colleges or the best use of funds. I understand now that more than ever that the Peralta Board of Trustees are elected to make the best decisions in the interest of students, the Peralta Colleges community, and the wider community. I also still believe that Adrian Abuyan is the best choice for Peralta and hope that you vote for him to serve as Area 2 trustee today during this meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next, we have Maya Lafau.
Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Maya Lafau, and I am here to support Adrian Abuyan. And here we go. So over the past 3 years, I've had the honor to watch Adrian sacrifice hours of his time, contributing wisdom, resources, and love to over hundreds of members of our community. And as a young Black woman from Oakland, I understand the value of showing up and supporting those who show love to you. And so, like Adrian, right, I'm here to show his support for him. He has shown time after time that he will do whatever it takes to ensure that he stays true to his word. He operates with integrity and holds students, community members to a higher standard. He will empower our community to rise above mediocrity and exhibit excellence. He models this every day. I know that Adrian will advocate for what is right, rather than acquiesce to what is easy and convenient. I hope you all are able to join us in supporting Adrian as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next, we have Paulina Gonzalez Soto. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly.
That's my bad handwriting. Paulina Gonzalez Brito. Good evening, members of the Peralta College Board of Trustees. I first want to thank you for the opportunity to serve the Peralta Community College District and its students. As I ask for your support, know that whatever the outcome, I stand firmly behind the trustees and the success of the Peralta colleges. After much deliberation, I decided not to turn out speakers for today's meeting. It is my sincere belief that in order to reach the best outcome for PCCD, the temperature needs to be turned down, not up. Throughout this process, I've thought a lot about the tens of thousands of people in the district who do not have a high school diploma, a degree, or a certificate from a college. This is the population who has the most to gain from Peralta. Although current students are my priority, these people are my priority as well. My work in the community has taught me that we must prioritize the most disenfranchised, and that is what I intend to do if appointed. I believe that I bring the expertise and experience needed to partner with you as we work to strengthen Peralta for current students and all those who stand to benefit from the education we provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, we have any other speakers?
Yes, President, we do. Tarandeep Singh.
And good afternoon, board members. My name is Tarandeep Singh. I am a former Peralta student graduate, former student body president at College of Alameda. And as I look behind the signs for all the colleges, I remember taking classes at every single one of them. In 2021, I graduated with my master's from public administration from San Francisco State University, and I was working as a director for street level strategies until recently. That would have never happened for me had I not been a student at Peralta Colleges. The path that I took here and the passion and the education I received here truly changed my life and truly changed the way that I'm going to live it for the rest of my life, which is one of the reasons I'm standing here today asking you to support Adrian Ebuyan. The reason I ask that you support him is because Peralta gets students from very many different walks of life, but students are always students. Peralta has always put its students first. To have someone on the board who has the perspective of a student who was and is a graduate from Peralta Colleges, who is a Peralta success story, is very important so that future students can also be Peralta success stories. And that's one of the reasons I ask that you support Adrian's appointment to the Board of Trustees. You already have heard so many things about his character, his hard work, and his honesty and his passion. So I won't speak about that because you already know what kind of person he is. And I believe, and like many others, that he's a perfect fit for this position, that he will bring so much to this job, and he will always put the students first and their welfare so they can all go on to achieve greatness in their lives. Like I did, like he did, like many others amongst us. That's one of the reasons I'm asking that you please support him, because being a Peralta student, being a former Peralta student, being a graduate from Peralta has truly changed my life, and it was an honor of my life. And I care what happens to this community's college system, because if it wasn't for this community college system, I wouldn't have a life to move forward to that I have today, which is once again, I ask that you support Adrian Ebuyan's appointment to this Board of Trustees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any additional speakers, Sasha?
Yes, President, we do. Jacob Ing.
Hello, I'm Jacob Ng. I left Peralta District 2013, and as a Vice Chancellor of Student Services, I retired. And I happened to come back tonight to say hello to Chancellor Jackson. And I knew you guys have a board meeting, and I didn't realize that I'm going to speak. It was not planned, and I just realized that someone like Adrian Ebuyan, who is running to be nominated to be the trustee for the Peralta District, I got so excited. I couldn't help but to come out here and say something. I know Adrian Ebuyan when I was a Vice Chancellor of Student Services. The time I served here for 24 years in the district. So I knew him, his energy, he's committed to student success. He's committed to student learning and student leadership at College of Alameda, and also he took some classes at Laney, where I came from, as a chair and also as a dean at Laney College before I came here to the district for 17 years. And tonight I'm here to support Adrian Ebuyan for his passion and his care for the district and our district, Peralta District. Even though I'm away for 10 years, we need someone like him to serve as a trustee for the Peralta District. Thank you.
That is all the public comments we have for tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Sasha. Let's go ahead and move to our action. 4.1, consider approval of provisional appointment for trustee area 2. So last meeting, and I also forgot to mention, Chancellor Jackson, due to health issues, is not going to be able to join us tonight. But Dr. Stephanie Joker will be here to answer any questions and to represent the Chancellor's office. So I just wanted to make that note for everybody. Last meeting, we were given an exercise to evaluate all 4 of the candidates that were brought forward by the ad hoc committee. And so in spirit of that, I think we should go ahead and start there. It was a rubric, I believe, that was sent to all of us, and we were to score each potential issue that we were evaluating the candidates on. And that was, I want to just mention, was for all 4 of the candidates that were brought forward. So well, actually, let me find mine. Was there anybody that wanted to go first to discuss their rubric as I pull mine out? So what I think I can do is start with the criteria. That way everybody in the public is aware of what we were evaluating. So the first criteria was overall professional and work experience. Number 2, experience in and commitment to educational quality, student service, and student success. Number 3, effective leadership skills and collaborative leadership style. 4, strategic planning, college operations, and financial affairs. Number 5, fundraising and community and stakeholder engagement. Number 6, experience working within a multi-college district, advocating for your college and working to advance the district. Number 7, commitment to ethical conduct, transparency, and institutional democracy. Number 8, experience working in a collective bargaining / union environment. 9, understanding and commitment to shared governance. 10, understanding and commitment to diversity and inclusion. Number 11, earn highest degree. 12, communication skills. 13, quality of paperwork submitted. Number 14, teamwork and interpersonal skills. 15, interview performance and overall fit for the position. So in the spirit of transparency, now everybody is aware, and that is in the public record now. Is there anybody who wanted to speak to that? Oh, go ahead, Bill.
I'd like to put a motion in effect that this board selects Adrian Adelin.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Trustee Withrow?
I put in submitting a motion that this board approve Adrian Abuyan as the trustee for Area 2.
Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second? Or did we want to keep discussing? Okay. Am I hearing a second then? Natasha, are you on with us?
Yes, President, I'm here.
Actually, I think what would be helpful at this point, just a moment. What would be helpful at this point is again to reiterate what it is that we are deciding and what our options are.
Absolutely. So trustees, this evening, you're continuing your deliberation regarding the candidates that applied for the position of trustee Area 2. And your goal is to reach a consensus on any qualified candidate. And so our hope is that through your deliberation, you will reach that consensus.
And if a consensus is not reached, can you tell us what our options are?
Sure. If you are unable to reach a majority vote to approve a provisional appointment for the position, then it will fall to the county superintendent to call a special election to have that position filled by election, paid for by Peralta Community College District.
Yep, go ahead, trustee Reese.
Natasha, and I don't know if now is the appropriate time, but if and when we get to that particular point in the discussion, could we also recall or at least have you present on the costs involved from the city, the county clerk's office, that these weren't just amounts that were arbitrarily created, but they actually came from a validated source. And I don't know when that time will be, but
I think now is appropriate.
Sure. Give me just one moment, please. Okay.
Can you walk us through this slide whenever
Yeah,
you're
absolutely. Are you able to see it? Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay.
I can we all?
Yes, I think we're good.
Okay, so the this data comes to you from the county clerk's office, and I have provided the links for where the data comes from. We also had a conversation with the voter registrar's office candidate services department to confirm, you know, the information and the approach and understand what the cost would be. So trustee area 2 has 45,000, approximately 45,000 registered voters. The estimated cost per voter for a standard election, like what we call an independent standard election, a special election, is between $19 and $21 per voter. That cost means that it's between $859,000 and $950,000 is the cost of the election. There is an option for a vote by mail election, and the estimated cost per voter is between $9 and $11 for a mail-in only election. And the approximate cost for that is between $407,000 and $497,000. And this data is all directly from the Alameda County office, and the links for that information are provided. Now, just so you know, the data does change on a daily basis, so it can fluctuate a bit, you know, depending on the number of registered voters as that data is updated on their site, but it gives you a snapshot of exactly what it was on the day this slide was prepared last week.
Trustee Reese, you have a follow-up, and then trustee Withrow.
Why don't you have trustee with
Go ahead, Bill.
Under the guidelines here that you're talking about and briefs on, it says registered voters 45,000. The estimated cost is per voter. Does that mean that the per voter is the voting ones that, if they say 25% turnout?
Yeah.
Is that the figure that's used, or is it the registered voters that are used?
The registered voters.
Okay.
So the way the clerk's office will establish the cost is they assume that in our democracy, those who are registered to vote will vote. We obviously know that we don't always have, you know, the greatest voter turnout, but they still staff, you know, they still plan for the election. The materials have to be prepared per voter, per registered voter, because it's not about just the act of voting, it's the preparation for the election to allow every registered voter to vote. And so the way these numbers were prepared was to take 45,249 and multiply it by $19 and then multiply it by $21 and then multiply it by $9 and $11 to give you these two ranges. And that approach was confirmed with the clerk's office. Is exactly how they would estimate your cost.
And to clarify again, so that we are reminded, the difference, even though the vote by mail only is clearly a less expensive choice, that is not our choice to make. It is made by the ACOE or the Alameda County Office of Education.
I was not able to confirm that prior to this meeting. I am still in the process of getting confirmation on that. So I can't confirm it with certainty. I don't know, but it could be that it is not the Peralta board's choice. It is possible. It is very possible that it will not be your choice.
And my second question is, what is the time frame for such a thing? If one were to do a special election, it doesn't happen quickly. So how long does it actually take?
I don't have an exact exact answer for that. I believe it is 2 to 3 months, but I would need to confirm through the clerk's office.
And that would be 2 to 3 months after March 10th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Trustee, I'm sorry, VP Quinlan, go ahead.
So Natasha, would that put us in violation of the time we have to appoint?
No, my apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I think you understand where I was going with the question.
No, so it is, if you're not able to appoint by the March 9th deadline, then this is the next step in the process. So there would be no violation by the board. It would just be a failure to provisionally appoint a candidate to take the seat.
And my last question is, so that we all are clear, there is 1.5 years left for this spot. So is that right? It's 1.5 years?
Probably a little bit.
1 year is 9 months.
Yeah.
It's 9,
1 year, 9 months.
1 year and 9 months. And if it's about 2 to 3 months for a special election timeframe, it would be a cost of either $1 million or $500,000 for a year and
9 months.
6, well,
No,
with
6
it,
months by the time.
6 months.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions about the cost of the special election? Okay, going back to our rubric, is anyone interested in discussing? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, you're right. There is a motion on the table.
Hasn't received a second.
So we can. Can I entertain a motion at this point? I know we had another one before, but there was no second.
Point of order, President,
Sasha.
what was the actual motion? I didn't hear it.
Trustee Withrow, did you want to repeat your motion from before?
Motion is to have this board appoint to fill the void if we have in area 2, and specify that it be a day. What do you want?
I just needed you to repeat your motion, Trustee Withrow. Okay, if there's a motion on the floor, I'm entertaining a second. Trustee VP Quinlan?
He didn't just put the same motion on the floor again, did he? He was just repeating it for.
That was It's repeating it. Yes, I apologize. Yes. It was repeating a motion that was stated before.
So I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would move that the Peralta Board of Trustees approve Paulina Gonzalez Brito for the Area 2 Board of Trustee position.
Thank you, VP Quinlan. Second.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
So I believe, and we've kind of hopped around here a little bit, I think what we want to do is have a discussion according to this particular rubric or some variation of a discussion.
Yes.
So I know that we have a motion and a second on the floor. Motion makers,
We can discuss.
We can discuss.
may we discuss?
Let's go
Okay,
ahead.
The rubric. Okay. Yep. What do you?
So I first of all, thank Dr. Jackson for the rubric. It was very helpful. I guess my when I added up my point total, it was clearly in favor of candidate Paulina Gonzalez Brito. I don't want to go through each particular item and compare it to all the candidates. I don't think that's really the best way to proceed here. It's just that she came out substantially ahead of everyone else. And part of that, I think, is really based on the first metric, the overall professional work experience in years, which she does have a lot more experience than everybody else. And that gave her a pretty sizable margin. Just in that area, but she still had the most points in throughout the rubric, and that's the reason I'm supporting her.
Thank you, VP Quinlan. Go ahead. Trustee Johannes.
Thank you. Regarding the rubric, I know that you listed them out for the audience. I'd also like to mention that certain items have different weights. For example, what Trustee Quinlan mentioned was 10%. The highest weighted item is 15%, and the majority of the items are weighted at 5%. That being said, the one that has the highest at 15% is number 2, and I'll repeat it, experience and commitment to educational quality, student services, and student success. And similar to Trustee Quinlan's sort of argument, I say the opposite, as that was most significant for me, which I believe Adriana Boyan does possess, and it is one of the it is the highest weighted item in this rubric of 15. So, and again, just like Trustee Quinlan said, I'm not going to go through every single item, but hopefully for a future trustee of Boyan will make it. So that was still my choice.
Okay, VP Quinlan.
So I actually had candidate Abuyan as the leader in that one metric also. It's just when overall, I was just pointing out that candidate Brito had a huge margin just because of her experience. That was kind of made the margin greater because she has a lot more experience than any of our candidates.
I agree.
And I'm not just saying that. I mean, I think that experience is important, but not the deciding factor.
100%.
But in all the other areas, I think around strategic planning and community relationships and ability to attract funding and many of the other metrics, I think she clearly that experience is reflected in the work she's done, her relationships in the community, are longstanding. And I just think that overall, outside of that one metric, that she was substantially better.
I agree in that case, number 1, overall professional work experience, which is at 10%. I do have Paulina scored higher than Adrian. Again, like I said, the 15% item, I do have Adrian scoring higher. In addition to that, regarding community engagement, I think even having this number of people here in support of Adrian a few times, multiple meetings, that's a pretty good indicator of his ability to corral, engage, and activate our community. So again, Adrian for me.
Madam President, Trustee Ewan has.
I apologize. I'm basing it off of who came up to speak at the podium. I should have specified that in that way.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan has her hand up.
Thank you. I just want to speak to this one issue on number 2, experience in and commitment to educational quality, student services, and student success. I actually rated Nita Khalil the highest on that. Here's somebody who works in education for the Oakland Unified School District, has spent a life preparing herself in that area. I mean, if we're going to be honest about who actually has experience in education, it's that candidate. I just hands down, let's just look at the obvious there. But come back to me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Withrow?
In going through the evaluation form, it's a matter of obviously your perspective and as you're valuing it. And I had Adrian Abuyan substantially higher than Paulina Brito. And it's a matter of judgment, matter of background, whether it's a background within the Peralta environmental set or the business community or the governmental sector or whatever. I think that this is a useful tool to pull out the key things that we should be looking at. But I'm not sure that when you come down to the line, I had about 2.5 to 1 higher for Adrian. But I picked that as a just as my perspective in going through it. You know, when you get into strategic planning, college operations, and financial affairs, experience working with a multi-college district, advocating for your college and working the advance to the district. Commitment to ethical conduct, transparency, and institutional democracy. Understanding and commitment to shared governance. You know, these are things, and when you're looking at these things, you're putting them into perspective. I'm not sure that we should be grading out saying we go with the highest number here. Even though the individual that I'm supporting and strongly support comes out higher in my estimation, I think it's more a matter of putting it into each of these kind of categories into perspective.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Do we have any raised hands on the Zoom? Trustee Gonzalez Yuan, you said to come back to you. I just want to give you an opportunity to speak if you would so want to.
Not at this time, thanks.
This was an interesting exercise for sure. And what I did was I went beyond our 2 because it was obviously contentious. And I went to our other applicants, our 4. And not surprisingly, the 2 that ended up at the very top were our 2, the 2 that we are deliberating on today, I believe. For me, and I think I've shared this, but the data points and the numbers kind of went back and reaffirmed what I had originally thought. In terms of student success, in terms of multi-college experience, in terms of AB 1725 and the participatory governance, yes, our former student trustee would certainly be higher in those particular areas, and certainly so because of his time at the district. But in terms of work experience, in terms of academic experience, in terms of highest degree, in terms of communication, and both were great. But for me, Paulina was on a different level as it relates to that. But they were both great. Please, look, they were both fantastic. and effective leadership skills. I think both also are very, very strong. Strategic planning for me, Paulina. So there were a variety of different numbers that were a bit surprising. And I think that this helped neutralize the qualities, the characteristics in such a manner that it became a little bit more logical and less emotional, if there was any kind of emotion attached to it whatsoever, which hopefully I did not have any. But my person and my data still affirms my original position. And that would be Paulina. And may I say one more thing?
Sure.
I think the one other thing that was very interesting to me is, and Ms. Gonzalez Brito had actually said that on the dais right now, was that instead of calling people to actually come talk, because I don't think it's a necessary sign of engaging the community, that you have all these emails that are sent to you and all of these calls and all of the people coming, because there's other ways to also engage community. And I do respect the alternative, which was kind of tone that down a bit and then allow the trustees to make the decision with all of the other information associated with it. So that's my last point.
Again, I've thought a lot about this, and so going through my rubric, it was very similar for most areas between Paulina and for Adrian, right? So I went through it a couple times. I have a lot of chicken scratch on my rubric here. The two things that really popped out to me, and a couple of my colleagues have already brought this up. Number one was experience working within a multi-college district, advocating for your college and working to advance the district. And then the other one was understanding and commitment to shared governance. So those were the two differences between the two candidates that when I was going through this exercise. And I really want to give some appreciation for Chancellor Jackson in doing this, because I think that this really helped clarify what it is that we are evaluating for this particular seat as trustees, right? As someone who would be a future colleague. So I just want to, again, give her some appreciation for this, because I think it really did kind of focus, at least I'm speaking for myself, I'm just being real. It helped us focus as a board on what it is that we want to see, right? And so those are the two that really jumped out at me. And so one thing I'll say, this is my third year on the dais, and we have a 4-college district, which is pretty big. And it's one of those experiences where you don't know how to do the job until you actually do it. All you can do is rely on your training, rely on your experience, rely on your lived experience, rely on your education, and trust yourself to be able to do the job well. It's a really difficult, I'm just going to be honest, it's a very difficult job. It can be a very difficult job. And so for me, the other one was understanding and commitment to shared governance. That was the other thing that I think really jumped out at me. It's understanding, not just putting issues through the shared governance process or through the PGC or anything like that, but really understanding what it means to engage the community, what it means to engage stakeholders in this community. And again, as everybody knows, I've been supporting Adrian throughout this whole process. And I want to reiterate that as someone who does understand that now, right? Who understands why it is that we engage the faculty. Why is it that we engage the classifieds? Why do we engage the administration? Because we want buy-in for the decisions that we make on this dais at all times. And understanding that on a very deep level is really necessary to be successful at this job, in my opinion. So those are the two that really jumped out as differences between Paulina and Adrian. And so at this time, that's where I stand. So they're very important to me. Nikki, giving you a chance again.
Sure, I'll chime in here for a sec on this rubric. Actually carefully went through it. And part of what I was looking at is what are the underlying qualities that you're looking for within the item? So, for example, if you're looking at shared governance, part of what you're looking at is not just the specifics of AB 1725, but it's also the underlying principles of AB 1725. Why do we do shared governance? The other thing is like working in a multi-college district. Well, if you're a student or a student leader in the multi-college district, you gain a certain kind of perspective. But what are you really trying to do there? You're trying to balance the needs of a complex institution. And so as I looked at that one, I thought about Nita Khalil and thinking, for example, well, all right, Oakland Unified isn't a multi-college district, but it's a multi-school district. And so I scored her pretty high in that regard because she's a manager and she's been, a line, on the line educator, frontline educator in that setting. And so it didn't seem fair to say, well, she hasn't been in a multi-college district and therefore she scores low. Similarly, I looked at Paulina's experience leading a statewide coalition of 160 organizations. That's complicated to do. You're, again, trying to balance off the needs, the interests, the concerns, and develop inclusion. So, with all due respect to anybody who came to different conclusions, my conclusions in there actually scored both of them higher than Mr. Aguian, who, while he had some experience in this area, it was limited. He was a student trustee for 1 year. He was a student body president for 1 year, as opposed to having a professional life of decades or multiple years. So, it's complicated doing that. I was trying, I agree with Trustee Withrow that it's a lot of perspective, and maybe it would be helpful for us to actually reveal how we scored in, like here, let's all put up our scoring sheets and then actually look at it and then say, well, why did you give that person a 10 and that person got a 2? Because we know it's possible to get to a result you want to get to here. And I like using my best professional judgment here, but I can't quite see the equivalence of the candidates that we've got here. We've got a professional who has decades of experience in complex organizations, raising budgets of millions of dollars, with direct experience with collective bargaining on both sides of collective bargaining, having worked for almost a decade in a labor union, and then working almost a decade as a director, the boss. It just didn't seem close. And so it leads me to believe that at the end of the day, this is either a values question, what values we have and how we weight those values, or it's just a raw political calculation. And then we're not talking about that. We're not talking about the political pressures or the political considerations. And maybe that's not appropriate to have here. Maybe that discussion is disruptive to have here. I don't know how we get out of this quandary, though. I will say that I personally am committed to not arriving at a result that sends us to the ballot. I think that would be a travesty that this board could not figure out, well, who's the second best candidate? Can I live with a different candidate than the one that I prefer? And if we can't come to that, then it says something unfortunate about us. But I don't think that anybody on this board wants us to go to a time-consuming, a very expensive vote that will make us look horrible. And I think that among the most critical considerations that we have is that we are in a process of searching for a chancellor. What we do here today, how we behave with each other, and the outcome of the decision that we make is critical in that search process. The world is watching us. Let us not devolve into or make a decision that explodes us. Let us try to figure out how to agree to disagree and then be cordial. We don't have to back off of our hard decisions or our hard judgments, but I think we must elevate the level of discussion and keep it elevated. So that's my plea. I have other thoughts, but I'll share those later if it's appropriate. Thank you.
So I'm a little bit of a planning fanatic. One of my mottos I hold closest and dearest is failure to plan is planning to fail. And I think that's what this district has done since our last strategic plan was 2015. So how do you build a budget without strategic plan and strategic goals that are tied to the present times? I don't think you can. The other thing is, I think when you go through your budget, if you believe in equity, you can point in your budget where you're supporting equity. I mean, that's the part of having strategic goals and aligning your budget with that. And that's one reason that I really support candidate Paulina Gonzalez Brito, is that strategic planning, that sense of urgency, the sense that our district really, the future of our district, and I believe this strongly, really depends upon reaching out to a new population that we haven't served in the past that we should have been serving, but also we have opportunity to serve now with new legislation that has come, in California around concurrent enrollment for adult ed students, around ability to benefit, that creates a whole new access to community colleges for students without high school diplomas and GEDs. And to do that, we really need to have a strategic plan. We really need to have a budget that supports that strategic plan, because enrollment is our critical issue. If we do not increase our enrollments, we're going to be looking at trying to figure out how to run a 4-college district with 4 administrations and a district office and declining enrollments. And that is not feasible. That is not possible. I'm not making an argument here for shutting down colleges, but it will drastically change the way this district has existed for a long time.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? And I want to remind everybody that we are on a motion to appoint Paulina Gonzalez Brito. So is there any other discussion? I want to also make sure that we're letting the student trustees speak if they are able to do so. I can't see the Zoom here, but I'm relying
They
on
are
you.
able to do so.
So feel free, if you would like to, go ahead and raise your hand.
No
Okay.
one is,
Okay, great. Thank you, Sasha.
no problem.
So in hearing none, is there any additional discussion before we call for a vote? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Sorry, my mute wasn't working. Student trustee Hogan,
No.
student trustee Latino,
No.
trustee Withrow,
No.
trustee Johannes,
No.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
No.
deadlocked.
Okay, colleagues. Natasha, do you want to give us our options again?
Your options remain the same, to either come to a consensus through a majority vote, or to fail to appoint.
Trustee Ewan has his hand up.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
I'm trying to figure out how to undeadlock us. And the option I'm considering is advancing one of the other candidates. That strikes me as crazy, because I think that the candidate that I support is so far more qualified than any other candidate. And so then I have to now say, well, why do I think that the second running candidate shouldn't be elected, shouldn't be appointed? And I've been trying to avoid this discussion. I've been trying to just focus on what I like about the candidate that I like. But I think we all need to then ask the question, well, if we can't have the candidate we like, could we live with the second candidate? I think that's a critical question, because then if we can't say, well, all right, I'm not getting my exact way, but I could live with this other candidate. If you're not willing to do that, then you have to say, well, no, I'm just going to do this because it's a power play and I refuse to lose. And so I'm willing to consider Daniel Alvarez or Nita Khalil. And so now I need to say why I can't consider Adriana Buyan. And I've been trying to avoid this. And I'm trying not to do this in a way that is distasteful or rancorous. But I think on a critical test here, candidate Buyan has failed. And so now I need to say what that is. Why is that for me? Like, I would pick one of these other candidates rather than that candidate. So you're going to have to indulge me for a second, or I can stop talking. But if you'll indulge me for a second,
The
I'll try
only
to
thing I'd say,
explain my
Nikki, is that we
position.
want to do, we did talk about that a couple of meetings ago, is not going negative on any of the candidates. So I don't know if
I
this
am-
is a road that I want to go down. Please.
Well, I'll try to do this in as thoughtful a way as I can.
Trustee Reese is going to speak.
I don't
Well,
want to,
what-
I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just asking. If I may say something, however, if you'd like to continue on, that's fine. Although reaffirming what President Delphine Polk had just said, we certainly want to keep everything very positive.
I'm trying to, so give me a sec and I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
You've seen me on this dais for years, and I don't think you've ever seen me be vicious or unthoughtful.
You
I
are
will be
absolutely right.
kind and thoughtful.
Yes, yes, always.
So if I may, I have one vote. That's the only vote I have. I can speak for myself. And this is the way I land. I hope everybody else will have the honesty to explain why they land where they land, because I'm stupefied as to why people will not move. And I feel as though if I'm asking you to explain why you can't accept the second candidate, why? What is it? At one point, Trustee Withrow told us in the subcommittee meeting, yes, you know, there were two candidates who rose above everybody else, and they were the two candidates that we have. And so now to say that candidate is completely unacceptable. Okay, so I'm going to explain this, and then I'm asking you to explain this to the public and to your colleagues here. So I've had decades of experience here, and I've seen it get really, really bad. I have experienced horrible, vicious attacks for taking principled positions in defense of working people, in defense of Asian Americans, in defense of multiculturalism, in defense of administrative accountability. I have weathered censure motions. I have weathered lawsuits, complaints, etc. It's a hard job. And what I've seen in the last 4 months, 3 months, is a completely different board. And I refuse to go back to a board where we make vicious attacks on each other because of political differences. We have to figure out how we disagree and then learn from that disagreement. At last Tuesday's board meeting, a pretty ugly allegation was made about me. Now imagine, colleagues, that somebody came to this board and made such an attack on you personally. Think of what that is. Now, forget me personally for a second, because this isn't about me and this isn't about my feelings. I see the same kind of attack being made on anyone who steps up to take leadership in this district on anything important. I see Chancellor Jackson weather horrible attacks. I see our Vice Chancellor of General Services weathering horrible attacks. I've seen college presidents chased out of our district because of horrible personal attacks, often where race is weaponized. And we can't have that kind of a district. I had heard rumors that the attack that was raised by former trustee Jordan, I'd heard rumors of that attack being associated with me, but they'd never been raised publicly, and I didn't think it was necessary, given the life that I've led and the values that I hold, the way I comport myself as a trustee, as an instructor, as a human being. I didn't think it was necessary to respond to that. Misogyny, racism, anti-Black racism. I think anybody who's watched me and watched my career would know that's silly. Former student trustee Abuyan apparently has associated himself with that attack, which I had thought was shocking. I didn't quite believe it. This is the man who had invited me and my wife to celebrate his marriage, his wedding. And so if he even mistakenly thought that somehow I might have said something that he interpreted in that way, I would have thought he would come and talk to me. I'd spent countless hours with him, driving him back and forth to meetings, sitting next to him at board meetings, etc. And so that if somebody thought such a horrible thing, you would think, all right, they would come and talk to me. But I didn't know for sure that that was associated with him. And then on Tuesday, former student trustee Jordan raised that very attack, bringing back to this district in a very public setting such an ugly tactic, a tactic that I thought we were past. Now, in the days since then, former trustee Abuyan had many opportunities to disavow himself from that attack, to separate himself, to say, wow, that was so unthoughtful, that was so unnecessary, that, you know, you might be opposed to me, but I certainly would not approve of such a degrading, debasing tactic. When the Peralta Citizen apparently asked him about the veracity of the attack, he declined to comment. In other words, he condoned the attack. And for me, while I had been thinking before, well, I could flip a coin, I could live with this. On this critical test of leadership, what kind of board shall we have? What kind of discourse shall we have? In my mind, he failed that test badly. There is no possible way I would vote to allow that to re-enter the way we operate as a board, as a district. I think as a board, we need to be exemplary in our behavior towards each other and the kind of discourse that we allow. I am confident that Adrian Abuyan is a skilled and thoughtful person who someday will do amazing things. Right now, in this setting, I don't think he's ready. And we have in waiting other candidates. So trustees, if you believe that Paulina Gonzalez Brito is not an appropriate second choice, I'm prepared to vote for one of the others and avoid the travesty of spending so much money on an election and making us look foolish. If you really believe that. Now, I've said why I can't take your candidate. And now I'm asking you to as honestly talk about what you're really thinking and why you can't go to a second candidate. Because for me, your second candidate is just unacceptable. I refuse to submit our district, our administrators, our classified leaders, anybody who steps forward and takes a bold
Let's go
position.
ahead and wrap up your
I
comments, trustee,
refuse-
because we have other folks.
I'm
who-
wrapping up.
Thank you.
I refuse to submit our district to that. And I'm really sorry because at one point I considered Adrian Abuyan a friend and a mentee. And that it's come to this in this public setting. I'm very, very sorry that it's come to that. I tried to avoid this. But I also feel a commitment to honesty in our public discourse. Thank you.
Just to, I don't want to respond to this because I wasn't a part of the Board of Trustees during the time. I barely know some of the information that transpired back then and how it's transpiring right now. But I do want to say, you said that you basically you don't want this to be brought to light over and over again to recur. That 7-minute speech is kind of doing that. So in order to move forward, I would think that we'd all just stop discussing this, especially since Adrian has already dissociated himself, as you mentioned at the very beginning of you speaking. And again, even though I don't know what this situation is about, you said something to the effect of attacks where race is weaponized. I think that is a very heavy statement to say, as it puts a level of blame or some sort of disbelief on the victim. So there are different perspectives, and I don't want to keep bringing it up, but as another Black woman, I don't want to hear that race is weaponized. I would never want to hear that from anyone because you don't know our experiences. That's all.
Thank you, Trustee Johannes. One thing I'll say to respond to Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen is I also, compared to Trustee Withrow, Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen, I'm fairly new on this board and I had no idea about any of this before this process. And so in the interest of transparency, to speak to Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen's point, I came to the conclusion about Adrian, aside from any of the issues that have come up during this appointment process. And I'm saying that completely honestly, because that's the information that I had. I evaluated all the candidates. I spoke to those who said that they wanted to speak to me. I gave equal weight to all of that. I did, and I told everybody that I was going to continue to keep an open mind. And so, reading in between the lines that there's some sort of, political something or other that Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen was saying is incorrect, at least in my case, because I didn't know any of these folks, just like Trustee Hunt, I didn't know anybody, right? I came onto this board just over 2 years ago. How was I supposed to know any of this history? And for me, I came to the conclusion on Adrian aside from all of that. And so that's how I continue to approach this. Not to say that things happened at this district beforehand. I am aware of that. But at least I don't want to say allegation because I don't like that word, but the insinuation, I should say, that I'm at least arriving to this with an ulterior motive in mind is completely false. And I will say that for everybody.
President Polk, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to point out that student trustee Hogan has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, student trustee Hogan, and then we have trustee Reese.
Yes. I just wanted to kind of say something about that speech or that presentation about what former trustee Jordan said about trustee Ewan. That allegation or whatever that had been said about him before then. So it had already been circulated about him in the public before. So even before I came on as a student trustee, I had heard about that. So for him to say that Adrian was like affiliated with that, I kind of don't understand how he could come to that conclusion or even take it in consideration when voting for him to be on the board of trustees. I think that was kind of inappropriate, trustee Urine, to say about someone that's not here to defend themselves. If you are going to say something about someone that is attacking you, I think you should say it in the presence of them when they're there to defend themselves. And that's all I got to say. And I still support Adrian. And I always did before even hearing about or even affiliating anything, or after hearing all of the interviews of all of the candidates, I still felt that Adrian was the best candidate, and I still do. But saying that you were attacked by someone, I don't feel like you were attacked during the last meeting. I was there, and no one even really knew about that other than people who actually knows that particular former trustee. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, student trustee Hogan.
President Polk, do you mind if?
Go ahead, Natasha.
Thank you. Trustees, I'd just like to suggest that you stay on the topic that is agendized for tonight's meeting, which is consideration of the appointment of a provisional trustee. I feel worried that you are going to go down a number of rabbit holes in a space and on topics that are not part of tonight's agenda. So I would just suggest that you please keep your comments related specifically to the question at hand. And if any trustee wants to make a motion for any of the candidates that are before you, please continue to have your dialogue around the question that you have agendized for this evening's meeting.
Thank you for that, Natasha. Much appreciated.
My recommendation is to go in a completely different direction. We are gridlocked, and we are gridlocked for a variety of good reasons. I think that people who are selecting candidate Buyen are solidly in that camp because of his experience, his documents, all of that. And I will not take that away from them because that is absolutely valid. For those that are citing or choosing Gonzalez Brito as the candidate, are also doing it for those exact same reasons, completely valid. And again, nobody should want to take that away from them. The practical reality is that we are substantially at a space where it's 3 and 3. And I think we all have done our math in terms of the rubric and the calculations. And we have all come to realize, I think, this is what I heard, but I don't know if I'm incorrect, that the two that floated up were the two that we have before us. And so remarkably, there really isn't I think, and I'm just throwing this out there, that at the end of the day, these are two good candidates, have different qualities and also have an overlap of similar qualities that could be a value add for this board. To think that of the three, one is going to probably move the other way is unrealistic, frankly. And so, but I think the reality is, and I'm hoping this is exactly where people are, we cannot on this dais decide to go to a special election. And I will rephrase Marcus Crawley, who was from the Alameda County Taxpayers Association. I believe that's who it was. And he said that this board needs to be accountable. This board cannot spend the taxpayers' money to go forward, especially when we have two good candidates and they're 3-3. Again, I am going to say that it's potentially $1 million or we could say 500,000, okay? 500,000 to $1 million that this district should not spend, given the fact that, again, it would be 2 to 3 months for a special election, and it would be a year and some months. And I know, and I've heard there's a lot riding on this. These are two good candidates. And for the year and 4 or 5 months, both candidates will put forth a value add to this board, to this district. And so what I'm trying to say is, for such a long period of time, and even if you are new to the dais, even if you are new to the board, we do know, if you live in this community, that Peralta Community College District has had a reputation. We've had ups and downs. We have been in the center of the spotlight in terms of FCMAT, in terms of ACCJC, in terms of the state chancellor's office. And now people are saying this board is no longer dysfunctional. This board has come a long way. This board is finally actually kind of paradigmatic. And I hear that because I'm always around talking to people in those particular places and spaces. And the fact that this board is being given those kind of accolades, that was a little unheard of a little while ago. It was a little unheard of a little while ago. What I don't want, because this is what's going to be up there, what I don't want is a headline that says that the Peralta board, gridlocked, would rather go to a special election and spend the taxpayers' money for two candidates that are good, that are great. And so we're 3-3. And if we can't come to a decision, maybe Nikki can't live with one. I sure can with either. I think everybody else here maybe could certainly live with either because they're both good candidates. They really are. And so if that is the case, I think a headline that reads, the Peralta board, because they have two good candidates and they're 3-3 and gridlocked, instead of spending the taxpayers' money, they decided that the most responsible thing to do with two good candidates was to do it randomly, somehow, some way. Because we go to a special election and this board, this district will once again become the center of a spotlight that we just don't want to have. We just cannot afford to have, especially after how much progress we've made at this district. And they're both really good candidates. So maybe I'll make a motion.
Go ahead. I'm entertaining a motion.
Unless there's other people that would like to speak.
VP Quinlan, go ahead.
So I agree, we can't let this go to a special election. But the other thing that I would like to speak to is the fact that we had 30 people apply for this position. 15 people were actually in the district that applied. We had 4 candidates that took the time and energy to go through the interview process. We had numerous people from different parts of the community, supporting different people, writing numerous emails and letters and coming to speak. And all of that means that people want to be engaged with this district. They see this district as important to the community. And I think that's a positive thing. I think it's a really positive thing that we have so many people that want to participate in this district. And I think we should not forget that. I have not seen this level of interest in the district, except over specific issues that matter to one group or another. But in general, concern for the district, I haven't seen this level of support or participation. So thank you for your participation, everybody. And that's all I really want to comment, that we don't have to necessarily look at this as a negative thing, but a very positive thing, that, we have a lot of people involved that are, have a stake in this decision and feel strongly about it. I think that's a good thing.
Trustee Johannes?
Yes, so I agree with Trustee Reese regarding not wanting to go to special election. Everybody agrees with that. No one's going to spend $500,000 to $1 million. We're not gonna let that happen. But before this coin toss, I would like just a bit more discussion or attempt to vote once again, a couple of more times. That would be my very, very last decision, is the coin toss. So I still want to have something on the table regarding speaking about these candidates. I know it's ad nauseum at this point, but what else is there? So.
Is there a motion that you would like to move?
Motion to appoint Adrian to Area 2.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Student Trustee Hogan,
Yes.
Student Trustee Latino,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Johannes,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
No.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice,
No.
Trustee Quinlan,
No.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes,
Deadlocked.
we are deadlocked.
Given where we are, I would like to make a motion to move forward with this particular vacancy, affirming everybody's opinion about their candidate, that they spent a lot of time thinking through, analyzing, and discussing. But given the fact that we are where we are, I would like to make a motion, and this might be the real motion, to move forward with a, do we want to do it? To move forward with a random way of choosing between two very good candidates that would be a value add to this board.
I'm gonna be really honest, and I think I said this at our last meeting. I don't know how comfortable I am with that option, to be honest. I think we owe it. I understand that we're at a gridlock, we voted a few times, and this is where we are, but I don't think that the voters of Area 2 would appreciate this decision being made in this manner. And until I hear otherwise, this is how I feel. I think, we're elected officials and we are accountable to our constituents, and we're accountable to Area 2 in this decision, because in the absence of a special election, which it sounds like none of us really want at this point to spend the money to do that. I understand that we're gridlocked. I'm just voicing my concern over making a decision of this gravity in this manner.
I agree with you, President Polk. And not to add more meetings to this, we still have until March 9th. At the end of the day, we have till March 9th, and I'm going to use all of those days before a random selection. Of course, and no special election.
Trustee Ewan has his hand up.
Go ahead, Nikki.
So I'm hearing Cindy make a motion to try to get us out of political chicken here. Who's going to move first? And it's one way of doing that. There's another way of doing that, and that is if you find the alternate candidate unacceptable, then let's pick Nita Khalil or Daniel Alvarez. But if we're going to go down that route, then we need to understand why it is that the second choice candidate is unacceptable to you, that you couldn't bend. I didn't want to go there before, but I felt from a position of honesty, if I'm going to say that candidate isn't acceptable to me, doesn't work, I needed to say why. But I haven't heard anybody else say, other than I want my way, I haven't heard anybody else say, why is a compromise to a second choice candidate not acceptable to you?
So I'm
And
going to
rather than going to a coin toss, I'd rather go to the third or fourth tier candidate, because I'm not willing to risk this person who I think is unacceptable being appointed. But why is it that you all are not willing to bend? What is it that is so objectionable about the second candidate that you go, oh, no, I couldn't possibly do that? Unless it's just political chicken, like, no, I want you to blink.
Trustee Gonzalez, Yuan, actually, I want to interject here and ask a legal question in terms of going back to the original motion. Not very, I don't want to veer too far off from what we're discussing at the time. Natasha, can you talk about the legalities of doing a selection at random?
So you cannot make the decision itself by a selection at random. It's prohibited. But what has been done by districts, some districts, like the criteria can be determined, the criteria for selection is determined by the board. And so if you were to decide that, after, I don't know, 100 votes of gridlock, we will then do this to be affirmed, this being some kind of type of random selection, that random selection would have to be affirmed by a motion and a second and a majority vote. So the ultimate selection cannot be done by random selection. You can't just like pick a name from a hat and then that is done. It would have to be affirmed by a motion and a vote of the majority of the board.
How would we go about doing that follow-up?
I mean, I think you would really need it's not a suggested, it's not a recommended method for all of the reasons that you have already stated and for the hesitancies that a number of you have expressed, right? The way you would do it, the way I would recommend you do it is you would take a motion to consider that a method, whatever it is, hat draw, whatever you decide, and then you would take a vote on that. It would be my hope for you that if you were to do that, you would have a unanimous decision, because you really do want everyone to agree that that's how you're going to do it. And then you would move to the selection, and then you would have a motion, a second, and an affirmative vote to confirm that it is the selection of the board that you use this random method of selection of affirming. And then you've made the pick through a motion, a second, and a vote.
And the last follow-up, and I am glad that you brought that up about it would have to be a unanimous vote, because I mean, Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan has made his position on Adrian fairly clear. In the event that it would at random go to Adrian, I would hope we would have to have a unanimous vote, correct?
You don't. So there's no whenever the Brown Act requires a supermajority vote, it explicitly says that, right? So this is not, there isn't a legal requirement for unanimity, but it's such an important part of your process that I would hope you would consider it of that kind of importance, and consider like you want to have everybody on board for the selection method. And at some point, trustees you've been very clear. I don't think I've heard any trustees say that you want to go to an election. So you're very clear you want to avoid that. You have to find a way to get to 4.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Natasha, what you're saying is the only unanimity that needs to occur needs to be on the method used.
It is
not-
my recommendation to the board. It is my recommendation to the board that your selection measure be one that you feel a tremendous level of concurrence on. Yes, it is not a legal requirement though. I don't know, I'm not an expert in ranked choice voting, but I do know like the city of Oakland, we have ranked choice voting. So I don't know if that might be another way where you all could rank, and this would be public. There is no such thing as secret ballots. We do not allow secret ballots. Those are also prohibited, but you could each rank your 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then try to pick from that. I don't know. I just trying to be creative with y'all.
Trustee Johannes?
Yes, just a note in response to what Trustee Gonzalez Yuan just mentioned. I don't think we're saying that the second candidate is not fine. We're not saying to move forward with the 3rd and the 4th. To be honest, with all due respect, it's you who has an issue with the second candidate, and that's why you would like to go to the 3rd and 4th and completely remove the top 2 altogether. That being said, you said that in previous years, this board was very contentious. There were some issues. Again, I was not here for that. But if you not caring for the second candidate, your second candidate, meaning Adrian, is based off of personal issues that we all say that we would not like to continue to discuss, I'd like to think that considering him would be a sign of good faith, saying that you are prepared and willing and ready to work with people who you may not fully agree with or have personal issues with, but still can move forward for the benefit of the district. So I would still like to mention, again, we are not saying our second candidate isn't great at all. The top 2, we've all just said that we like them both. I believe it's just you who's saying this. Am I incorrect?
I have my hand up, President.
Trustee Reese, go ahead.
I'll just say that I think it is not essential that we go through the why not we're changing, because equating the why don't we go to the second as meaning that we don't want to, that there must be some other underpinning for that is not necessarily a correct, maybe, or accurate equation. So I think that is not going to be productive to do. I believe that where we are is that we have our reasons, and the rubric is definitely one of those reasons. And we have 2 candidates that are good and could do the job. And what I would like to do is make a motion to see if, I don't know how to make a motion regarding this, but what I'd like to make a motion to do is to see if either of those candidates would be candidates that would be willing to work with. And help me around this motion. And if we have a majority there, if either of these candidates, I don't know how to make that motion. What would that motion sound like?
Start from the beginning.
I'd like to make a motion.
Cindy, I can help you out here.
Could you? Go ahead.
Doesn't require a motion. I'm saying,
That
Go ahead,
doesn't help
Cindy.
me.
let me clarify something here. First of all, Trustee Johannes, I'm not saying I won't work with whoever the board appoints. I'll work with whoever the board appoints. I'm just saying I can't support that person as the candidate. But whoever the board appoints, I'll work with that person. That's my nature. I'll do that. But I also want to be really clear, just in case you didn't get it, Trustee Johannes, I was slandered and defamed. And the defamation.
Trustee Gonzalez, I don't want to go back down that line of discussion at this point. Right now, we're talking about a potential motion from Trustee Reese.
I'm gonna get there. But so point of information here, I was slandered and defamed, and the allegation was that I said that to former student trustee Abuyan. So let's just be clear, he was brought into it. Now,
Trustee
Cindy,
Gonzalez,
as regards your motion, you don't need a motion. All you need is an agreement among the board that you will vote for whoever tosses the coin, whoever comes up on the coin toss. But you don't need that as a motion.
that's not what we're
simply,
discussing. Trustee Gonzalez, Trustee Reese.
I thought that's what, in fact, she was trying to do, is get to, how would you get to a
Trustee
vote
Reese
of
and then
four?
VP Quinlan.
But maybe I'm mistaken what.
Right,
Cindy's
Trustee
looking
Go ahead,
for.
Trustee Reese.
Trustee Gonzalez, I think at this point, what we're trying to gauge is, and to articulate in some kind of formal manner, that the board would work with either of these two, could see themselves working or adding to the board. Could either of these two.
Almost like a
candidates.
statement of like cooperation kind of thing.
Yes, yes,
can
it's a
kinda see
statement
where
of
you're going.
cooperation. That's
I
what
can
it
see
is.
where you're going with it, Cindy. I really can.
Oh, please save
So
me.
do you want to articulate it again? I need to get a motion out of it. So
Okay.
I think it can be a motion.
okay, go ahead, VP Quinlan.
Let it be a motion though.
So I don't think it can be a motion because it's a hypothetical. It's not a real thing. I mean,
Not necessarily.
I think we can have that discussion, but I don't think we can have a motion on that.
Natasha, this is a great time for you to come in.
I'm not understanding what Trustee Reese is trying to do, so I'm sorry, I can't help formulate the motion. You're trying,
Go ahead, Cindy.
Maybe the question that we're asking is, need we have that motion? Because we're trying to create a motion that articulates that the board would be good with either of those two candidates. That. Or maybe a motion. Maybe we just decide, make a motion for the method. Is that what you want me to do? Us to do?
no, I don't know. I don't have any.
Can we
want-
make a motion for a statement articulating that the board
And that would be a unanimous decision, correct?
need not be,
Or does it have to be a majority?
could work well with either of these two candidates?
Dr. Drucker, could you help me? I'm not following.
Trustee Reese, are you suggesting that you're making the statement so that you could move to a method of choosing one of the two top candidates?
I think we're building a ladder to get to that point. Yes.
Okay, so Natasha, do you understand what they're trying to do? That if they agree together as an emotion, that they would all work together with whoever was selected. And then they move to determine the methodology and then make the motion based on that methodology of the results. Does that
And that is
sound,
the assumption
is
that
that
we're
what
going
you're
with the
trying to
top
do,
two
President?
candidates, right? Yeah.
is that what you're trying to do, Trustee Reese?
Yes, thank you. And I think
Okay.
the reason why I'm even throwing it out there, Natasha and Dr. Drucker, is that I feel the uncertainty, right? It's been articulated and I feel it. I just want to formalize that we believe at the end of the day that these two candidates are both good with their individual characteristics and experience, and that we could, as a board, work with, as individuals on the board, could work with either one of them. And so I'm trying to mitigate the idea that this is really arbitrary, because it's not arbitrary. We're not just throwing a coin for anybody out there. We thought, and we have
Right.
really analyzed this.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Reese, that helps. So yeah, I mean, I guess what you're saying is that you have been through a process. You received 30 applications. Of those, you had 15 applications that were considered qualified. Of those, you selected 4 impressive candidates. Of those 4, the board has now reached in a top 2 candidates. And so you are seeking to have an affirmation from the board that all of the trustees agree that they could work with either of the 2 candidates if whichever one is to be selected by the board. Is that accurate?
Colleagues, I believe yes.
Okay, so we could do that by a thumbs up if you'd like. We could have each trustee speak to it. President Polk, I'll turn it back to you.
Yep, let's go ahead and do a thumbs up. So can you repeat it? Dr. Joker, I think you were the one who said it fairly eloquently. If you could repeat what you were saying.
Okay, I'll try. Okay, so I see Trustee Gonzalez, you want to put his hand up. Should I wait?
No,
No, go ahead, Dr. Joker.
Okay, so it's my understanding that first, you're going to agree that all of you would work with whoever is chosen as a result of the methodology by which you choose to do that. So basically, you accept the results and that you will work with that individual.
All right, you want to do our thumbs up? This is a straw poll, y'all.
Yes.
So I know Sasha and I have work because we're on Zoom. Was that a unanimous thumbs up?
We have all
for the
thumbs on
record?
the dais right now.
Can't see Nikki's.
Yeah, we don't know.
Nikki,
What-
sorry,
what is the question here?
Okay, here we go again.
Will I work with whoever is appointed? Of course.
I think
I work
the
with-
answer is,
I've worked with Trustee Withrow for 18 years. We
Yeah.
so rarely concur on hard things, but I work with him, of course.
right. So I think really what we're trying to determine is unanimously, would you all accept the results of whatever methodology you choose to vote to appoint someone in? You would be able to work with those people. One of those 2 people, no matter what the result is.
Dr. Droker, I believe the real question is will you cast a vote, not will you work with? Will you cast a vote for the winner of a coin toss? I think
That is
that's what
actually-
it's being
That is a
asked
great
for.
way of stating it.
And it's not a motion. That is not a motion that can be made within the law, according to Natasha. We can't vote to bind ourselves to a random selection.
Nikki, that's not what we're saying. This is a
Okay,
straw
then
poll
I'm
on the
misunderstanding
process.
it. I am totally misunderstanding it. Okay,
Why don't we take a few minutes? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on this and then we'll take a few minutes. Let's do our thumbs up again. Dr. Joker, can you repeat it just so everybody's clear?
You're all agreeing that you would be able to work with one of the 2 individuals who is appointed by whatever methodology you appoint them.
Either one, not one of them. Either one, not.
Either one, yes.
Yes, thank you. Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Is there a thumbs up there?
I'll work with whoever the board appoints. If that's the question, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and take a few minute break.
Student trustee Hogan, student trustee Latino, do you want to express
Did
your
we want to
thoughts?
include? Yes. If you have your thumbs up on Zoom, or you can let us know that you have it up.
I don't think I can put my thumbs up on Zoom, so I'll just say yes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mhm.
Student trustee Hogan, are you still with us, Lisa?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's take a few minutes.
Can I ask clarifying? This is a few minutes just as a break. It's not a few minutes where people are going to caucus, have a discussion about
No,
methodology.
Nikki, we're
out of the
taking a
public,
bathroom
right?
break. Thank you very much.
Good, just trying to clarify. Thank you. Didn't know what the break was.
Normally I put. Well, she has the only. By the way, these things are like. No, no, I'm just saying. I've been standing outside the fence. There, okay, let me just run over there. I may as well just. Wait, are you open up? Okay. That's cool. What? That's what we need to do. Unless I could have been wrong. Oh, that's okay. That's all me. That's all. Okay. All right. Well, I can. Oh. Stop compromise. Like I'm trying to flip stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, colleagues, let's go ahead and get started again. I want to be mindful of time. Colleagues, if we can have you return to the dais. VP Quinlan and Trustee Reese.
Need to run and get a water.
Okay.
Anybody else want water?
No, thank you, Louis. I was telling them I took a fantastic tour today. Yeah, the one again. For the Oakland. They have some really cool stuff. They want to talk about workforce. So next meeting, I'll talk about it. It was.
But you didn't need to.
Yeah, but like I wasn't like. You should recognize my voice. Oh, we did. Portfolio. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was phenomenal. I'm gonna see if I can write something. Yeah. Yeah. I think it would be just something like a stuff there for this whole thing. To do something. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and come back. I want to show some appreciation for this board. I really appreciate the fact that it seems like we're moving towards a consensus together. I think that's really important to speak to your point, Cindy, about what the community is watching us, right? And seeing how we're gonna make this next very important decision. And so I just want to show some appreciation for my colleagues here. The next question to ask is in terms of timeline. So I'm looking at the clock at 7:25. This meeting is scheduled to end at 7:30, and we have a few more days before the deadline of March 9th is upon us. So I'm trying to take the temperature of my colleagues to see what it is our next step would be towards choosing an appointment here. And I also want to make sure, I know Natasha, you'd spoken to the legality of choosing a trustee in this manner. And so I would request that we have a little bit of time to ensure that the legalities of that wouldn't be challenged in some way later.
Sure, I'm happy to provide you with research on that.
That would be fantastic. That would be my request.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to that? VP Quinlan?
So what I would like to do is unfortunately adjourn this meeting and come back on the 7th and recommend that the trustees go into the community, talk to the people that supported them and worked for them in the election, and, get there, see how they feel about this issue. And, because those are the people that got us elected. Those are the people that we're representing for the most part. We're representing everybody, but those are the people that supported us and got us here. And so if we can talk to them and see where their feelings are at, and then come back and hopefully not go to a coin toss. But I think, there is a lot of solidarity here in the community, I think, for not spending $1 million on an election.
Well said. Thank you. Trustee Reese and then Trustee Johannes.
Yes, and I just want to remind us that we're going to hear a lot of voices, and yes, they are constituencies for sure. But at the end of the day, we have to be the one that makes the responsible decision for this district. And although many will say, go do this, many may say, not will say, may say, do the special election. That's the appropriate way to ensure that we get the right person for this particular area. We have to do what is fiscally and financially responsible for this district, and given the other external elements that this district has confronted and continues to confront.
Thank you. Trustee Johannes?
Yes, I was just going to agree with what Trustee Quinlan mentioned. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm happy to exhaust all the days that we have until the 9th. And so to meet up again, I'm not sure exactly which day, check schedules, but yes, I'd like to continue to meet until the very last minute.
Thank you. Trustee Withrow?
I support you waiting until the 7th. Makes sense.
Okay, either the 7th or the 8th, whichever day. We'll of course properly notice it. Okay.
I just had a question.
Go ahead, student trustee Hogan.
So when you go out to the community, you'll be going to area 2, right? If you would put, Trustee Lewis said you
Yes.
guys will canvass the community, it would be in area 2?
I think that's a good idea.
Yes, me too. Thank you. And the students will be able to participate in that? The student.
The student trustees?
Trust, yes,
Sure.
okay.
Natasha, I know that our deadline is the 9th. Our absolute decision is okay, so is our deadline the 10th? And our decision must be made by the 9th? Natasha,
Yes,
the 9th.
yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not cutting ourselves too close to or beyond.
You are cutting it very close by going to the 9th. Yes, you are
Okay.
cutting it very close.
So
So
would you
should-
recommend a couple days then,
Yeah.
like the 7th or the 8th, one or
Yeah,
two days?
because you could, when someone could be sick, like why, you really want to get this done.
Yeah, so
Okay.
why don't we do this? Can we, again,
Mike.
that makes me a little nervous. And so could we collectively, if we want to do a thumbs up, just say that we have to make our decision on the method, hopefully, that is the direction we go.
Yeah.
On the 7th, and so that we have somebody to appoint by the 7th, because we
Yes.
have to do so.
I'm more comfortable with the 7th.
Okay.
We got some thumbs up.
Nikki?
A point of order, President Reese, my apologies, President Polk, and question for you, Natasha. If the plan is to postpone the decision until the 7th, we need an official motion, correct, or not, to then continue to
That is
adjourn
an
the
excellent
meeting and then
point of order.
postpone?
But I would suggest trustees that you take a motion to continue this item to your next meeting date
Great.
to be determined.
All right, I'm entertaining a motion, colleagues.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion?
May we concretize a time now as well? Okay.
Madam
Is there a
President,
preferred time?
I have a hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Nikki.
So what I'm trying to understand here is we've now met 3 times and are deadlocked. And what I'm hearing is we're going to go away and talk to people. There's no scientific way of doing that. This is just going to be whoever you happen to randomly talk to, whoever happens to lobby you. What we're asking for basically is the candidates to organize their constituents to put pressure on us to try to make a decision one way or the other.
I don't think that's
And I'm not-
necessarily what the spirit of this
Excuse
is.
me,
VP
I'm
Coleman,
not trying to
Go
debate
ahead.
with you. I'm
Go
trying
ahead.
to make a statement. And so what I don't see is how this is actually going to lead to anything different. And so before we agree to this, can we really understand what we're doing here? Like, what is our theory of organizational or institutional decision-making of change here? Because what I'm seeing here is this body deadlocked for 3 meetings in a row with no real intelligent discussion about how to undeadlock. I've heard I've heard one proposal, which is let us bind ourselves to a coin toss. We'll do this as a matter of honor. We won't do this as a matter of law because we can't, but we'll toss a coin. And then I've heard 2 people say, no, they're not comfortable with that. But I've not heard an alternative how to move out of deadlock. And I've not actually heard a whole lot of new. What I hear is trustees reiterating the same position that they had, maybe with slightly different words. But if we're going to go away with the idea that we're going to come back and then make a decision, I'd like to have a better understanding of what we think is going to be different on Tuesday than happened for the last 3 board meetings, The longer this drags on, the more frustrating it is, the worse it looks, and the more risky it is, because if we default, we've made a huge error. So what's our theory of change here? Are we really inviting lobbying now? That's what we're inviting. We're going to go talk to people and the loudest voice in the community is going to prevail. I'd just like to understand what we're doing.
So, Nikki, I don't know if you've been reading your email. I've been reading mine. There's been serious lobbying going on all along. I don't think, and again, I think that's great because that means people are passionate about this. They're passionate about the district. But I think that we can, contact people in both our communities and in that district and talk to the candidates about organizations or people they would refer us to and try to make them as available as possible. And maybe there's something those people will tell us that is important enough that somebody would change their mind. Maybe that I don't think, I don't like the idea of a coin toss, but much, much more, I don't like the idea of paying $500,000 to $1 million of, I hate to say taxpayers, but of community resources and money that our students and faculty and administration need to make this district succeed.
Same. I've been, just to jump in, I haven't been comfortable with the coin toss. But the only thing that I really don't want is this district to spend additional, like you said, VP Quinlan, additional resources on a special election. And the other thing, the reason why I'm asking us, and I think we're almost all in agreement here, up here, is I would like to really dig into the legalities of this and make sure that this won't get challenged later on and it default to a special election anyway. I think that we are making progress towards a consensus. I think that that is progress versus the last couple of meetings that we've had. That's just my opinion. And so I'm comfortable pushing this to the 7th, pending speaking to community folks and getting some research on the legalities of this decision. Trustee Johannes?
Yes, I agree with that completely, President Polk. In addition to that, yes, we have been deadlocked every single time, but just please know that it's not the same argument every single meeting, even though this is our 3rd. The last meeting, we were asked to fill the rubric. So we are trying something different in order to come to a conclusion. This one, we have decided we're going to reach out to the community. So we are trying something different. It's not, we are reiterating our arguments every single meeting and we end up in the same place. We are trying something new and coming back with our results once again. So again, I'd like to exhaust the days. Let's go meet again and hopefully we can come to some sort of consensus.
Trustee Withrow, go ahead.
Just a point to address those that have said that this is a really odd kind of a procedure to come up with a 3-3, and Trustee Ewan brings up a number of times. This has got to change. Well, I can recommend a change. Trustee Ewan changes his vote to whatever.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. So it sounds like Trustee Reese, go ahead.
Just one last point. And I think we just made that commitment here is that when we come back, if the votes haven't changed and we are still at a gridlock, our commitment is to do whatever method we have decided to do. Okay.
VP Quinlan?
So Nikki, a little bit in response to your comment, Trustee Ewan, Gonzalez, I've never heard people criticize for working too hard. Maybe working too stupid, but not working too hard. And I just think that the fact that we're willing to go to this lengths and meet again and again if we need to come to the right conclusion of not spending that much money, I think actually it should earn us some respect in the community.
Thank you very much.
President Polk, student trustee Sarah Latino has her hand up.
Go ahead, student trustee Latino.
Hello all. I would be happy to meet again. I would just be like to discuss the time of when we're gonna meet and all that.
Let's proceed with that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make myself available anytime as well.
I am unfortunately not that open. Could I possibly recommend 2 to 4? I don't know how much we're allotting. But
Sure.
I think that if we come gridlocked, we just need to make a decision through the method, or make a decision on the method and then get a decision that way. So does 2 to 4, somewhere in there, does that work for all?
I can make that work.
You're speaking of the 7th?
Oh, yes, on the 7th.
Tuesday, the 7th, yes.
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 Nikki?
Can we
Oh, sorry.
just really, I have a meeting that ends at 2:15, so just after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2:30 to 4:30?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you resuming? What are we doing?
I can,
You
I
have to
can-
meet in person. There's
Okay.
no.
and I'll be here. Yeah.
And unless a majority of the trustees need to meet in person, other trustees can zoom in, but you have to give us your address and it has to be at a place that is open to the public.
Right, which we have noted on the agenda for trustee Yuan here.
Correct. Thank you.
So we're looking at Tuesday, the 7th at 2:30. Is that okay for you, Bill? Okay, great.
2:30, 4:30.
2:30 to 4:30. Okay, it sounds like we have a date and time for our next meeting and our next steps.
A point of order, President Pope, may I ask trustee Ewan if he will still be out of town, if I should still use the same address, or will you be available in person?
Same address.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, colleagues.
Okay, with that, let's adjourn. And I'm going to thank the candidates. They are here in the boardroom and they have been both consistently here. Several of them have been here. So thank you very much as we deliberate this decision. We appreciate your attention.
And the people supporting them.
And everybody supporting them, yes. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.